my heart's desire is to leave a legacy of love, that every person I come in contact with knows that they are uniquely made in God's image and that they are loved and they each have a purpose.
Welcome back, everybody, to Trade Tips, and not only Trade Tips, Trade Talk. So if you didn't know, now you know, and if you knew, tell somebody else. Today we are here with the lovely Mother Callaway. Everybody, welcome her, welcome her, welcome her. We're so grateful to have you on and so thankful to have you here. So with that said, Mama Callaway, would you like to give them just a very short piece on who you are and where you come from?
Well, I'm Lillian Callaway, and we're from Oregon, Canby, Oregon, outside of Portland. We own K&L Industries, which is a paving company. And the more important part is that my husband and I and my son all own our business, and I am a wife first, a mom second, a grandmother third, and I keep the books and keep the business in order fourth. And that's the way I function life in.
See, I love that sound because to me, you're the backbone of K&L. That's how I think of it. And there's no K&L without Mama Callaway. So, Mama Callaway, I want to ask you, were you always involved with the company, or did you just recently get involved a lot more since now you're a grandmother? You have so many glorious nicknames I could call you, but how long have you been a part of K&L? I'm curious.
Well, kind of the backstory is that I was raised in a self-employed home. So business always ran out of our home. So it was not unusual. And when Keith and I first got married, and sometimes we have plans and God has others. And we had talked when we first got married and said, okay, 4 kids. Yeah, that sounds good. We'll talk after each one. 7 kids later,
Wow.
when God has a plan, he makes things happen. And we had to figure out what direction to go to feed our kids and to keep them clothed and fed and alive.
Right.
And so the best way to do that was being self-employed. And so K&L Industries was birthed. And so Keith has done most of the work through the years. And I once a year would gather all the well, I gathered the receipts all through the year. And once a year we'd sit down to do our taxes. And that's
Okay.
kind of how it was for many, many, many years. And then as our kids grew and have graduated and moved on in life, left time for me to come become even more of a partner with Keith. And so now I do all the books, all the office stuff, all the anything that junior and senior don't do, that's what I pick up and do.
So what is some of the most difficult things you've struggled with having a family business? Because I know Keith Sr. and Keith Jr., they butt heads at times, but I also know that you're the mediator. And everybody tells me when Mama Callaway comes in and she gives you that look, you understand what time it is. So I'm curious that how do you guys manage a family business and keep it a family? You know what I mean? Because I know that's difficult. It can't be easy all the time. So I'm curious to see how you guys do that.
Well, it is difficult, but something that one of our pastors, who just so happens to be retiring now after 40 plus years,
Wow.
um, something he taught a long time ago was in the midst of all of the um, discontent in your heart and the angst of things going on,
Right.
especially dealing one on one, you have to stop and you have to look at a person's heart and say, okay, that's what they said and that's how they're acting. But is that truly um, what their heart meant to do?
Mm.
Is that what they were really meaning to do or say, or is it the in the midst of the situation? And oftentimes we have to step back and say, okay, so and so was mad about this, but was it because they're feeling short of money? They feel like their back's up against a wall.
Wow.
Are there um, outer issues
Right.
that are forcing them to react instead of respond? And so most of the time we really work on responding and to call people on the carpet to stop and say, okay, is that what you really meant?
Mm.
Or is that because you're just angry and you want to hurt someone? And that's really the core of of what we get to.
I love that, Mrs. Callaway, because I was sitting there thinking about you guys are very patient people. And I know that may or may not have been the case always, but the fact that you guys are so patient and the amount of time I spent with you guys and being able to see that patience come out with your employees, right? With your people, the people that you care about, even when we're at TCS events, man, when you could see it that you guys are very patient, you're loving, you're caring. So I want to talk a little bit about your employees because I know that you guys treat them like your second children. You know what I mean? And you have a lot of second lifers and second chancers. So please talk to us a little bit about how important it is for you guys to be able to give those second chances and to not only give those second chances for you guys to be patient and loving and caring.
Well, my heart's desire is to leave a legacy of love, that every person I come in contact with knows that they are uniquely made in God's image and that they are loved and they each have a purpose. And
Mm,
because of that, I have made it um, a priority of mine to live that out. To that, whatever decisions I make, I'm going to live the consequences and the blessings. And sometimes it's easy and sometimes it's not. But if I've
mm,
made a statement, then I'm going to live by it. And a lot of things that I come to are because a long time ago I decided my name was the only thing I had that was truly me and no one else's. And I'm the one who makes or breaks it.
mm.
So if I tell you I'm going to do something, I'm going to do it. Even if it kills me, I will do it. And that's something that most of our employees have never had because most people get that in their parents or in their family. But since most of our employees come from a felon background or broken homes or just not really good situations, they've
Right.
never had someone stand behind them and at whatever cost live out what they said they were going to do.
Wow.
And um, and so that's what we do. I don't give answers. And actually, ironically, our oldest, Keith Jr., he's the one who kind of pushed me into that because at 3 and 4 years old, if he said, "Mom, what are we going to do today?" If I gave him a list and I did it in a different order than I gave him, it was like, "Well, that's not the why are we there? You said you were going here first and then here." And it's like, I'm the parent. I can make that decision. But it helped me to understand the words that I was saying and the messages that I was giving to people. So I started thinking more purposeful
Mm.
in the things that I said and did. And that's really more so what we try to teach most of our guys is there is a purpose in the things you say and why you say and how you say them. So stop and think about it.
Wow, and that just goes to my favorite word of the year. This is my new word, Miss Callaway. It's my word of the year. It's called being intentional. And the reason why I say being intentional is like how I spend my time with everybody. I want to make sure that I'm paying attention. I want to make sure that I'm giving time, sharing love, and doing the right things. You know what I mean? So, with hearing you guys being so intentional with your love, with the people that you give it to, man, it's inspiring. You know what I mean? I get a chance to see the smiles on these guys' faces when you guys bring new employees to TCS events. You get the chance to hear the stories where they say everything they talk about they do. I'm like, we already knew this, but we appreciate you putting that back out there. And it's so important, man, to have somebody that is right behind you, always holding you up, right? Mama Calloway's a mom for a lot of people. That's why I call you Mama Calloway. I don't know too many too many people out there that I can give that note to, but I give it to you because you genuinely act as a mother to everybody. And it's a blessing to see you and your husband act as parents to everybody in TCS. People come to y'all more than they go to their own parents, which is a blessing in itself. So with that said, tell me about how important it is for you guys to be a part of TCS because you guys are such a big pivotal role. You guys help with the leadership, you guys help with spirituality, you guys help with a lot of things involving TCS. So like tell me a little bit on how important it is to you and your family to be a part of something so special.
TCS it is a part of us. It is the core of who we are. Keith and I always our gift is a gift of helps.
Mm,
It's not a gift of create, it's a gift of helps. And so we flourish best in a situation where we can come alongside people and encourage them and grow them and help them to see the best in themselves and that there is hope or there's a better way or just to be open in your opinion of the things that are going on. And that's what we do with TCS is to stop and look and say, okay, is that best for everyone, or is that best for just one group, or just this? Is it good for all professions, or
Mm.
just paving, since we're kind of partial that way? But I love the people. I love the contractors, because contracting is a very, very lonely world.
That's a
And
fact.
and the the other part, the reason I'm so involved is because I want to encourage the spouses, the wives, the moms, because having been raised in it and still living it with my own family, I know how important it is for the female to be there to support. They think that they're just at home taking care of the kids, or doing all the homemaker work, which I get it. It's a ton of work.
Right.
But what they don't get is, without them believing in their spouses, there is not going to be a business.
Wow.
And
Come
that's
on.
one of those things, that a comment that I tell Keith every now and then is, well, it goes back to a conversation we had, that I said, "You never talk about work. You don't go into the details. You don't do all these things." And he said, "Because the world is mean. I don't want to bring that into my home. I don't want to have to deal with that at home." I
Wow.
said, "But I want to know what's going on." And it was just very clear to take the time to understand where he was coming from,
Right.
so that I could understand how I could best encourage him. And really, men who are out there working and allowing their wives to stay home, because it is a privilege to stay home, and it is a choice, and you do give up a lot. It's not like we had 2 or 3 cars and they were beautiful in this big house. We had 7 kids in a 1,200 square foot house. That's we live within our means, but that was a choice that we made, that I knew by staying home, we were making that choice. But
Right.
it was more important to be at home with my kids than to have a huge house. We now have a huge house and no kids. But but these days, I will send him a text that just says, "Thanks for slaying the dragons,"
Wow.
because that's what men want to hear. Men want to conquer and to feel like they are providing and protecting their family, and that's what they're doing when they're out there working, along with the women that are there too.
Right.
And I'm not discrediting any women that work, because I get it, when you have to, when you want to. There's all kinds of situations, but
Right.
but when we made the choice that I was a stay-at-home mom, I was a stay-at-home mom, and that was my job,
Right.
was to stay at home and be with my kids first. And when they were in bed, then that's when I would do anything with business.
Mm. That is such a powerful statement because there's not many people that are like you, Mama Callaway. There's not. I ain't gonna lie to you, and I don't even know if they exist in my generation. But I'm looking. All right. So, like with that said, you said some things that I find very powerful. That I feel like a lot of relationships that listen to this podcast and also listen to the things that we do within TCS, they need to hear it. You know what I mean? Because I can understand on why it'd be difficult. You know what I mean? Your husband comes home from work late because he's working late to provide for the family. That causes altercations, it causes problems, right? Because let's be real here with relationships. Relationships deserve time. Without
Mhm.
time, right? It's hard to be in that relationship because that person has needs. They have loving needs. They have wants. They have things that they really want to be able to enjoy with their significant other. But you have found a strong balance in doing so. How long did it take you to find that balance with your husband? Because I know that was not an easy task. There's nothing you can say to make me believe that was an easy task. You know what I mean? So I would love to know, like, how hard was it for you to get there? And then also, how much work did you put in? Because I think a lot of people believe into this fairy tale concept. You know what I mean? Like they just wake up and it's love forever. I don't know if I don't know if that's actually real. I think that you have to fall in love with somebody over and over and over again. So explain a little bit. Tell me a little
Well, you'll get me on a little soapbox here, because
bit.
um, love is a choice. It's not a feeling, it's not a place, it's not a thing. You have to make that decision every single moment of every day. Now, you don't have to like them every day, but you have to choose to love them every day. And it's a journey. I mean, we just celebrated 41 years of marriage, and that was you're right, it's not easy, but I can tell you it doesn't feel like 41 years.
Wow.
From this side, it doesn't feel like 41 years. I want 100 more. And it's because we've worked at it, because we enjoy time with each other, because we were very intentional. There was a time, now I can tell you, when people say they're broke these days, they're still getting coffee. They still got their cell phones. They still go out to eat. I'm
Right.
telling you, when we were broke, we were scraping coins to get $2 to put gas in the gas tank.
Come on.
So, so I know what broke is. There were times when our power was turned off because we didn't have the money to pay. Our kids never knew that because we told them we decided to play camping for a few days. So we protected our kids from the choices that we made,
Mm,
but we lived within our means. And I think that's something that the younger generation misses out on. I didn't get married and have a beautiful house and matching furniture and all the nice cars and all the trips that I wanted. I stayed home. I cooked every meal. I cleaned the house. I did all these things myself. We made our own coffee. um, and you have to decide what you're willing to give up. Just like in business,
right.
you have to be willing to give up certain things because you know you have to make it to the next day. And it's
Wow.
just a daily decision of knowing today I have this much in my cup and that's what it's going to be. And we're not going to go beyond that. And we're going to figure out how to make it a great day because guess what? We have this much.
Right.
So that's good. And so we had to live with a lot of things like for Christmas, I had to be done holiday shopping by Halloween or Christmas wasn't going to happen
Wow.
because because in the contracting world, at least for years in our world, it's so seasonal that you made all your money during the summer and then there was nothing for months on end. And so I had to learn how to live in that seasonal world of, okay, if work's going to end first week of November or second week of November, that means all my shopping from the feast time during the summer has to be done by then. I
Mm,
canned all my food so I didn't have to buy a whole bunch of food and we bought sides of beef and we learned how to look ahead and prepare to live the few months that we weren't going to be able to have any income.
wow. That's what we call right there, Mama Callaway, a ride or die. And people think when they say ride or die, right, you legitimately are riding for me or dying for me. In that sense, I don't think so. I think what you did, Mrs. Callaway, was you stood right next to your husband through the toughest of tough times and you waited and you constantly encouraged, you constantly were there. You were a friend, you were a lover, you were everything in between to give him what he needed to keep helping you move forward and vice versa. That to me is something that is special that I'm still trying to learn to figure out. You know what I mean? Because I grew up in a single parent household and I didn't really have the opportunity to see what it looked like to see two parents doing everything they can to stick it out. You know what I mean? From my
Mhm.
perspective, it was always my mom either had a boyfriend or my dad had a girlfriend, and even then they weren't consistently in love with the person that they cared about. So it was hard for me to understand, like, okay, what is relationships really supposed to look like? So I'm in the learning phase right now. I'm growing right now. Mama Callaway. It's taking me some time, but I'm growing. But it's very beautiful and it's very inspirational to see your relationship because I truly believe I do. I truly believe that every couple that is in TCS or every man that is in TCS and has not brought his wife just yet has some type of gratitude to you and Mr. Callaway just because they're looking at what you guys have created. And we all know it hasn't been easy, but you guys have made it work. And that is very, very special. And I commend you
Well,
guys both because I've been broke too. You know what I'm saying? So like to see y'all go through broke and stand on your 2 feet, that's amazing to see because you guys could have easily gave up, but you never quit. And I know God played a huge role in that. You know, I know you guys
absolutely.
talk so deeply about your faith, and that's another inspiration that you guys give to me. So I want to be able to talk to you a little bit about that as well. Through your faith, what has been the biggest challenge, not only with K&L, but in your relationship through God, and that He's allowed you to see yourself through that situation?
You know, there's a couple really significant times in our life, in our marriage. Um, we had 4 kids, 5 and under. early on. And with that fourth kid, my body went through things.
Right.
And so my hormones were all out of balance, and I didn't like Keith and he didn't like me. But there was a decision that we made actually when I was pregnant with Keith Jr. So in our first year of marriage, there was an argument that we had, and Keith looked at me and he said, I want you to know right now that divorce is not a word in our vocabulary
Mm,
ever.
mm,
And from that statement from him, early on, first year of marriage, first few months, because I was pregnant within 6 months,
right.
but that stuck. I mean, that was a decision. That's all there is to it. So there was no option. We're going to make this, and we can either make it, like I used to tell my kids, we can battle and I'm going to win, but you get to decide how hard that fight's going to be.
Wow.
And that's what it was, is that our marriage was going to make it, and am I going to make it easy or am I going to make it hard? And for a year, neither one of us liked each other, but he kept coming home because that was his commitment to God, for better, for worse. And that was my commitment to God, for better, for worse. I'm still his wife. I'm still here. It's not like every day was horrible, but it was a hard year. I had 4 kids in diapers at once.
That is
And
crazy.
it was hard. But because we kept going, somehow we look back and it was like all of a sudden it was better. We couldn't tell you when or where or what magic thing happened, because there wasn't a magic thing. It was being blessed with the diligence of doing what we knew what was right. And it's
Mm,
just making that next right choice.
wow.
And because of that, those are some of the things that, in teaching our employees that come from broken homes, that come from felony backgrounds, they don't know what healthy families in life are like. So for 30 years, our business has ran out of our home,
Mm,
and my door is open 24/7. My phone is on 24/7. If they need to come and talk, they are free to come and talk and let us know, because I want them to know that's what a healthy family is. You're there at every moment of every day in case you need something. You don't abuse it, because if you start abusing it, that's when those privileges get taken away. But my door is always open to talk. And I can't tell you how many times I've sat out on our brick wall and sat and talked to guys about their marriages, about life, about things that they're doing. And usually when there's conflicts between an employee and I'm not talking about things. I'm talking about personal relationships. We're
right.
going to deal with the personal relationship first, and then we'll figure out the rest. But that's how we function. It's like people are the most important. So let's take care of that.
Mm,
And then the rest will take care of itself. But that's one of the things. And then living through Keith Jr. And kudos to his siblings. So Keith Jr. went through addiction, for those that don't know,
yes.
and recovery. And for 3 years, we lived a life of hell.
Mm,
And when I say hell, it was hell. There's no words that can describe it. There's no feelings that can even remotely come close to what we lived through when you're watching a loved one just desecrate their own life and try to take everyone down with them when they think they're doing great. um, and it wasn't just us, it was our whole family. His siblings stepped up and said, we want help to help him get better. We
wow.
don't know what to do. So we're going to stick together, and he's not going to ruin us as a family. And they were just as determined as you see in Keith and I, that this is our family and we're going to protect it.
Wow.
But as hard as they were and tough as they were during that time, they were just as loving and just as forgiving when his life turned around and he came back and said, I want to make it right.
Mm,
And that's part of that kindness that doesn't come from us personally. That that love and that kindness can only come from the Lord,
Come on.
because that's the epitome of love. I've watched my siblings love each other dearly through the tough times, through the hard times, and to stop and say, was that really their heart's intent? And that's that question that I told you in the beginning. Was that really their heart's intent?
Mm,
Was to sound that mean or to hurt me or whatever? Because when you really examine that, I don't know that there's really anyone I know that that's really their heart's intent, to hurt someone. It's because they don't know what else to do. They
mm.
don't know how to communicate what's going on in their life. So let's take a step back. Let's look at what's going on and let's walk through it and see how we can better them.
Wow,
And so,
that patience, Mama Callaway, that's God. It gotta be. It gotta be. There's no other way to explain it other than God, because that patience is just so beautiful. It's beautiful because it doesn't just come from you. It comes from Keith Senior. It comes from the siblings. You know, because that was a tough situation. That was a tough time, and anybody who's ever dealt have had to deal with somebody who's going through addiction, it's never an easy time. You know, you sit there and you fight their demons with them, and not only do you fight their demons with them, man, it feels like sometimes you're losing in the fight. You know what I mean? And you guys didn't stop fighting. You guys kept battling, and not only did you battle, you guys became warriors, right? And I believe that your family's a lot closer now than it's ever been. Just due from you guys are now at whole. Even though you went through a tough situation, you guys kicked its butt. Like 3 years is a long time, but I definitely believe in the power of three. You know what I mean? So the Father, the Son, the Holy Spirit, there's a reason why that He does everything in three and sometimes in sevens, right? So with that, like it's a blessing. It's a genuine blessing, because although it took you 3 years to get Keith back, the Keith I know now, man, is a spectacular man. You know what I mean? And
yes, he's amazing.
there's not
But
many people like him.
he is amazing because his strength, he knows where his strength comes from, and it's not
Mm,
from himself.
mm,
He
uh,
knows that for any addict out there, that he's literally a split second away from a wrong decision and ruining his entire life. In fact, we're all a split second away. The fact is that I just didn't have any drugs or alcohol that took me there.
right.
But I can make just as a ridiculous decision and ruin my life in a split second as those that have some kind of sickness involved.
Right.
And that's what I think um, that people forget, that we're all literally split second away. Or even when you're raising kids, the statements, "Oh, my kid's never going to." Well, guess what your kid is going to do someday, because you said he's never going to do
That's
that.
a fact.
So you have to step back and look and go, okay, how can I how can I help my kid not head that direction? What can I do and what can I put in place to help them see the freedom on this side, instead of seeing that there's freedom over here, because really there's no freedom when you're making the wrong decision. When you make the wrong decision, you're heading straight into bondage of some sort.
Mm,
Whereas the freedom, when you make the right decision, it means you have more freedom to make more right decisions.
right.
And as soon as you make a wrong decision, that's when all the gates and fences go up.
Mm.
And and that's how we raised our kids. I could talk about kids all day long. Because all my, well, I do have my necklace on here. These are my 7 kids, and I've worn this necklace for 30 plus years. And
Oh
it's not my
wow.
grandkids. These are my kids, because
Oh wow.
are my kids are my hand-picked gifts from God, and that's how I'm going to treat them.
Mm,
And I will treat them that way every day. Doesn't mean they walk on me, but they are my gifts from God, and I will treat them that way. And um, we're actually getting ready next week to go on a family vacation, that all 7 of our kids, with their spouses, with their grandkids, with Keith's mom and us, we're all in one house for a week. And you know what we plan? Nothing.
I
To
love that.
play games and to be together because we enjoy each other. But it is work. It is hard times and good times. But to get through those hard times, you have to be willing to talk.
Mm,
You have to be willing to talk about the hard situations. And if you can't talk about them, then you need to let them go.
Ooh, that's a bar right there, Mama Callaway. That is a bar. If they didn't hear you, they need to hear you. Well, Mama Callaway, we are coming to an end here. I am so grateful and so thankful to have you on because you gave me a lot of nuggets I'm gonna take home personally and really think about, because as of recently, man, I've been in a position where I've had to make some real strong changes in my life. You know what I mean? And really give myself to God and surrender. And I'm very thankful to have been able to go through what I've been through just because I know where I'm going. So I want to thank you and your husband because you guys have been an inspiration to me, and I know that you're going to be an inspiration to whoever decides to watch this. So thank you, Mama Callaway. This has been Tre'd Talk, and it's hard sometimes to talk, but it's lovely when we do. So we appreciate your time. We love everything about you guys. For those of you who are watching, like, comment, subscribe, give love, share love, and if you didn't know, now you know, and if you knew, please tell somebody else. This has been Tre'd Talk. I love you guys, and you guys have a good night.